Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to you all to this edition of The Insight. I am Babla Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we are analyzing controversies surrounding the issue of national unity in Cameroon. Yes, it is celebrated every May 20 in reference to what happened on May 20, 1972, when Cameroon moved from a federal republic to a united republic through a referendum. But there are questions and contrary opinions about the issue of national unity in the country, with some analysts saying that it does not exist. National unity does not exist in Cameroon. In other words, the country is not united. We're looking at this issue, and we're also taking you into the 2026 Cameroon Bar entrance examination. We're looking at the unfolding of the examinations and some challenges that went along with the written phase and, of course, the oral phase of the examination. And we are also taking you into what happens next after the publication of the list of successful candidates. We are looking at the training of pupil lawyers in Cameroon, and the 2026 Cameroon Bar pupillage entrance examination unfolded with high stakes, organized under a ministerial order by the Minister of Justice, Laurent Esso, and the process featured significant administrative hurdles, a new sponsorship requirement, and a centralized written fees on May 9 and 10, 2026. The entrance fees were fixed at 50,000 francs CAV to cover administrative costs and preparatory seminars. Candidates were required to submit sponsorship letters duly signed on the official letterhead of a sponsoring law firm bearing the sponsor's stamp, registration details, and contact information. The highly anticipated written examination were conducted in Yaoundé on May 9 and 10, 2026, and the written phase consisted of 2 papers, a case study or commentary covering subjects such as family law, civil procedure, criminal law, and execution of judgment. Each paper was graded out of 20, and candidates needed to score at least 10 over 20 in the written phase to advance to the oral examination phase. To be declared successful, candidates must achieve a final combined score of at least 12 over 20 across all subjects, and passing this stage grants candidates the status of advocate in training and begins their mandatory pupillage phase. We're bringing to you all of these. We are unpacking all of this for you in this edition of the program. Stay with us and meet our guests in some few seconds. Our guest today is Senior Barrister Eric is the President of the Cameroon Bar. Mr. President, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Babula. It's always an honor being a guest on your program.
Right. Let's begin by having your take on the issue of national unity in Cameroon on May 20, 2026. As it is the case every year, the Cameroonians were observing National Unity Day, celebrating National Unity Day with colorful parades all across the republic, even though in some parts of the country there was practically no celebration, or it was very timid due to insecurity, notably in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. But there are controversies around the issue of national unity and what happened on the 20th of May 1972 when Cameroon moved from a federal republic to a united republic through a referendum. What's your take about all this?
Yes, Babula, the issue of national unity is, if you were to put it in terms of a general question in an exams, the question would be national unity in Cameroon, practical reality or a farce? That could be a question. And that is the same question a lot of Cameroonians are asking. National unity is not seen by the ecstasies, the demonstration, the marching, the eating, the drinking. It should be manifested by the concrete, peaceful cohabitation. Does that really exist? How do we really talk of, I don't even want to talk about the Nous crisis, where you rightly have said, if there was demonstration or manifestation or celebration, it would have been very, very timid, though it was better than quite a number of years back.
They hold it under tight security.
Correct. But look at what happened on the 19th. People of a particular region, mostly the Western region, were targeted. Their shops were looted, burnt, and some of them were chased out of it. Can we actually talk of unity? Because when we talk about unity, it presupposes that we identify ourselves in each other. It connotes a sense of belonging. But where at some moment you are chased out of a particular place because you are deemed not to belong to that place, do we talk about national unity? I remember it is a national policy, is even enshrined in the Cameroon Constitution. Every Cameroonian has a right to freely choose where to install, to live in any part of the country. It puts a question mark. You see, even legally, when you look at the land law, when you look at the procedure, I don't want to talk about the law because I don't know where that obtains. When you look at the procedure for the obtention of land certificates, there's this notion of autoton. They tell you if you were not part of a particular community before 1974, you could not have a land certificate. You could not apply for direct registration of land ownership in that locality. How then is national unity really a practical reality? That is not the only case. It's in the East and all of that. There are so many times that we've had cases of people being chased out of there because they don't belong and all of that. I think individually, on a practical form, Cameroonians really need to live together. They manifested that in so many ways. But the political setting from time to time instigates that. It's so sad that even with the promulgation of instruments against hate speech, instruments which seek to encourage peaceful coexistence, bilingualism, and all of that, but all those things, a lot of them remain on papers. I remember during the post-election fever, there was this voice note which went real viral when somebody came up and said the administrators, the civil administrators who do not come out openly to pledge their allegiance to the president-elect should pack their things and go to their regions of origin. And that no matter how much security they think they have around them, they would definitely have to go back in coffins. That was a fundamental and a fierce threat to national unity. I expected the commission in charge of the promotion against hate speech,
the promotion of bilingualism and multiculturalism,
I expected them to come out and identify the author of that speech, let the nation know that the author of that speech has actually been brought to book. Just like what happened, we expect the government, we expect the forces of law and order to bring the perpetrators of such acts of vandalism against Cameroonians to be brought to book. Because by so doing, if it is left unchecked, the people who were chased out of that community, if they go back to what they call their own home, any other person too who is not an indigent in that area, to them is a stranger, to them is a danger, and should be chased away. How can we talk of national unity in such an atmosphere? It is more of a farce. And what is so curious is that there is always a political coverage on most of these things. When the perpetrators who do such things have the mentorship or the coverage or the protection of a particular political coloration, it passes. When it has the protection of a particular coloration, it passes. So our political party, be that the party in government or the parties in opposition, should definitely play a great role and stop being hypocritical about this notion of national unity.
So there is if I understand you clearly, there is a gap between what is said and what is done.
You understood me very well.
By those in power and those who are governed.
Not only those in power, in every aspect of our Cameroonian life. There's a lot of hypocrisy when we talk about this issue of national unity. Practically, you don't see that unity, because this act of vandalism against people who are deemed not to originate from a particular area does not. I know proponents of it will tell you there's been in the past 10 years, we've had intermarriages, people getting married from one area to the other. That's good. That goes a long way to foster a national unity. But the antidote of it, the other aspect of violence and all of that, is something that we can actually resolve by bringing such perpetrators to book. It happens in many other countries, but the difference here is that we don't see the perpetrators being brought to book.
We don't see the perpetrators being brought to book. But what about the economic aspect of national unity, the administrative aspect of national unity? There is what is called discrimination. That seems to be at the center of even the Anglophone crisis, where we see people from a particular part of the country, from some parts of the country, like holding, I don't want to say holding the nation hostage, as some people put it, but occupying majority of the positions available, and of course the income that comes with it.
Yes, when I said you cannot talk about national unity without talking about the sense of belonging, and you can't talk about the sense of belonging without talking about your right to whatever is of national distribution. And that is why I tell you, in practice, it is far different. It's far different. The sense of belonging negates. When you don't feel belonged, you cannot talk of unity. Unity talks about unison. It talks about togetherness. You cannot, in a very fair and equitable manner, talk about unity, talk about proudly that you belong, just when it has to come to work. But when it comes to sharing the booty, you don't belong. So these are all the things that negate the sense of national unity. So that's why I started by telling you national unity is not just the parades and all of that. Let us get Cameroonians to feel belonging. Let us get Cameroonians to understand that whoever, so long as you are a Cameroonian, you have a right, vertically and horizontally, to aspire to any office. And that if you belong to a particular tribe or clan, you are not precluded from aspiring to some jobs and all of that. Those are still the things that we need to put on the table to let every Cameroonian know that we all belong here. It is by so doing that we feel that sense of unity.
And still about national unity and the celebration of May 20. There are a lot of controversies around that date, May 20, 1972, which is now being celebrated as National Unity Day. Is it really the right day to be celebrated as the National Unity Day?
Babila, I would definitely not want to delve into the historical aspects, because the controversies around the issue of dates and all of that.
The dissolution of the federal system,
yes,
for unity.
What is the significance of it? Because even it seems to give the impression that something omits that date. Because even in our schools, it is different. The history we learned, the history that those that went before us, or those that passed before us, our forefathers, our elders, the history that they learned seems to be diametrically different from what we're studying today. And the question is, what is the significance of this date? What does 20th May represent in the history of Cameroon? And I remember some years back when these issues of the importance of the date became very, very topical. I think the senators, even parliamentarians, had some meeting at the monument, the reunification monument. But you see that monument serves no purpose. A lot of times you see people, children go there, take pictures and all of that. Even in its maintenance and all of that, it does not seem to incarnate the structure or the monument that symbolizes the unity of the two systems or the two people that came together.
Because to some now, May 20, 1972 is a day that broke the unity in the federal system. And to some, it is the day that the two were merged together to form one. And that is why till today, some are looking at May 20, 1972 as a day of mourning, not a day of celebration.
Exactly. That's what I started by telling you, Babila, that the issue of that date has a lot of controversy. And it actually makes, it compounds the confusion, because when you even look at the text written by historians, you are tempted to think that the history is written from a political perspective. Because when you read the history of Cameroon, there are divergent opinions by very renowned historians about all of this. And we begin to ask ourselves, I'm talking of renowned historians of Cameroonian origin. They have very divergent opinions. And that's why some people say it is not the true date that represents unity. Some say it's a date of mourning. And some people say that is actually the date that crushed unity. Some people hold that that is the date that incarnates unity. But all of this, whatever that may symbolize, what is in a date? It could be the right date, it could be the wrong date. But so long as the people do not live as a united people, as a one people, as people who feel genuinely the sense of belonging, the people who feel protected by that unity, then even if it's a right or a wrong date, it doesn't really represent.
The people should be able to identify with each other equally.
Correct.
And live in a
vertically and horizontally,
in a cordial and peaceful atmosphere for us to be talking about unity. But then, Barrister, I want us to go to the newsstands now, and I want us to look at the newspapers, what the newspapers reported this week. After the press review, we are coming back to take you into the unfolding of the 2026 Cameroon Bar Entrance Examination. Stay with us. We begin the press review with breaking news. Vivre ensemble, manger à part. Is there any reason celebrating 20th May as National Day in Cameroon? That is the question on the front page of Newswatch, reflecting on the reasons May 20 should be celebrated as National Day when Cameroonians only live together but do not eat together, according to the paper. The Herald Tribune reports that on the occasion of the National Day, the governor of the West Region, Awafonka Augustine, called for synergy to preserve peace. While in another article, international multiple awards-winning peace crusader Sir Dr. Ntumfo Barrister Nico Hale warns of deepening fractures. Cameroon Tribune projects what it calls a common front consisting of the army, the nation, and development. The paper tells its readers that apart from its traditional responsibility of defending Cameroonians and the nation, the army also carries out developmental projects, while citizens on their part help the army to fight against foreign invasion. News Hub reports a ministerial decision excluding municipal authorities from local tax collection and transferring the responsibility to the Customs Department. The Advocate, Mayview Village Land, Limbe 1 Subdivision, illegal buyers on bended knees, fate of buyers in balance pending verdict of Traditional Council, meeting with chief and victims holds despite disruptive attempts. The paper reports that despite an attempt by the divisional office of Boya to hold a dialogue meeting between the chief of Mayview in Limbe 1 subdivision and those who illegally purchased land in Mayview, security forces deployed to the scene rather guaranteed a well-coordinated meeting to its end. The Post CCTV cameras to police GCE exams as educators vow to crush malpractices. Secondary education authorities in the Southwest region are taking stringent measures to curb malpractices at this year's General Certificate of Education (GCE) examinations, with about 80% of schools already adopting a new policy obliging them to install CCTV cameras in exam halls. According to the Guardian Post, in view of keeping his promises to women and youth in his current mandate, President Paul Biya has approved 6.59 billion francs CFA for the Ntui Vocational Training Center, while Ekondo Titi, Fontem Ngong, Yokaduma are also expecting some presidential largesse. Right, you're welcome back. We're still with our guest, Barrister Eric Bar is the president of the Cameroon Bar. Mr. President, the written phase of the 2026 Cameroon Bar entrance examination took place on May 9 and 10, 2026. How did it go?
For the records, I would prefer the 9th and the 10th.
9th and 10th of
Yes,
May.
because when you said from the 9th to the 10th, it gives the impression of what happened in 2024, that they wrote continuously and got into the next day. But this time around, they wrote on the first paper, the general paper was written on the 9th, and the legal paper was written on the 10th. So it was on the 9th and the 10th.
What
the initial dates.
What caused the shift from the 18th and 19th of April to
the initial
9th and 10th of May?
When the minister published the ministerial order convening or launching the exams, the issue about the visit of the Pope was really not too clear in details about the dates of when he was going to be where. So as the days grew closer, it became clearer that on the 18th, that was the date when the Pope was leaving Cameroon. He was officiating a mass at the old airport, at the military base.
At the 101 Air Force Base.
Yes, at the 101 Air Force Base. And we could not be organizing, the Cameroon Bar could not, in partnership with the Ministry of Justice, could not be organizing an event that would be bringing together more than 5,000 people, amongst whom quite a good number, I guess, would definitely have loved to participate in the Holy Mass celebrated by the Pope. Some believers, that would be definitely their greatest opportunity in Christendom. So the minister, when it became very clear that 18 was the date when the Pope would be officiating the Mass in Yaoundé, the minister issued a corrigendum rectifying and postponing the exams to the 9th and the 10th of May, which effectively took place on those 2 dates.
All right. So there were a lot of stakes, very high stakes, surrounding this session of the Cameroon Bar entrance examination. Was it because of the population? Was it because of the changes?
The stakes, I would say, they were multifaceted. And as to give a watertight answer as to why there were those, I won't really understand. But I would say that the unemployment in our country is quite high. So at any given moment that there's an opportunity for somebody to have means where he can have some activity where he can earn a living, you always have the multitude rush into that. So to my mind, that is part of it. And one other thing is that our system does not really seem to have a lot of accommodation for what we send out. Because when you look at the number of students that graduate from the university every year, and you look at our public service, and you look at the private sector, do they consume even half of what comes out of the university or what we produce from our university? Certainly no. I think that is what got the head of state in his, I think it's 2024 or so, end of year speech, I can't really say precisely, but that he now called on the higher education system to actually professionalize education, because our education is actually public service oriented, with a few dotted departments that you can call professional and all of that. So that, by its number, because we had at the end of it 5,210 candidates. Some, though, were disqualified because of their certificates for one reason or the other and all of that, but it still came to that neighborhood of 5,000, which was quite huge. So many candidates feel that having launched the exams in 2024 and launching now, they don't believe that it would rather be launched more regularly. They think that having launched again now, perhaps who knows whenever it's going to be launched again. So it heightened the stakes. So all of these things put together.
The allegations that over 100 aspirants from the Southwest region had their files rejected due to over the validity of the signature of the Boya divisional officer.
No files were rejected on the basis that the signature of the GO of Boya was put into question. It wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't. Now, said and done, we now pass on to what happened. You see, there were some candidates that certified their certificates at the DO's office in Boya. Ex facia the paper, there was, we may not really be in a position to question or to say this is the reason why this document is not authentic, but some sense in you, I think the sixth sense in you tells you something is wrong with this document. It's not genuine. So when we realized there were some documents that did not ex facia, did not present really genuine, we said, no, we should find out. Our concern was not about the signature of the DO. Our concern was, what is the document that was presented to the DO for certification? Because the practice, Mr. Babla, is that during exams, when public exams or concours, are launched, that is when a lot of fraud goes on with certificates. A lot of people forge certificates and photocopy and go for certification. A DO who has about 100 certificates in front of him to legalize or to certify will not really necessarily have the time to go through the originals that are presented. That was our issue. That the documents that have been presented, are they original? And that's why we often recommend that the university that issued the certificates should be the ones to certify the certificates, the copies that are brought to us. Because they are better in the position to say, looking at this document is not from us. But when somebody has to go to the DO, all the DO does is put in the signature. And we said, okay, what we need to do is, since they did not come with the originals, we were going to organize a special session in the Southwest, in Boya, where we will get the candidates to come with the originals of the documents that they presented to the DO for verification. It was not about the DO's signature. It was not about the DO's signature.
So let me get it clear, Mr. President. The allegations that over 100 aspirants had their files rejected is false.
Vertically and horizontally.
So how many files were rejected? Or were there no files rejected?
No file was rejected on that ground.
But there were files rejected?
Yes.
Why?
There were files that were rejected, either they were not compliant. When I talk of the file, it's not the certificate, it's the entire file of the candidate. The files were rejected, either the candidate, the person who signed the sponsorship had already signed more than was required. It's either the certificate, the required certificate was not what the candidate submitted. It was either the person who signed the sponsorship was not up to date with its obligations vis-a-vis the bar. So those are basically the reasons. Some were rejected because either the certificates were from foreign universities and they did not provide the equivalent or proof that they had deposited their certificates for the equivalent. Some sent us the receipt of payment of 25,000, which is generated online. We said, no, that is not what we need. Besides the receipt, you can generate the receipt online, but you have not effectively deposited. So we insisted that we should have the acknowledgement from the Ministry of Higher Education that you have actually deposited your file for the equivalent. So those are the reasons why.
Is that what happened with the over 100 aspirants from the Southwest?
They were not from the Southwest.
They were not all from the Southwest?
Yes, there were so many.
Generally?
Yes, they were generally. It was not only from the Southwest. There were some cases where they were actually fraudulent cases, which we seized the CONAC. We seized CONAC, even here to
the
come
National
here.
Anti-Corruption Commission.
Yes. There was, I would just give you like a case.
Fraudulent certificates?
I don't know. I don't even know whether it's fraudulent, but because fraudulent to me looks like mild, but it's something worse than fraudulent. Yes, but for the lack of a better word, let's say fraudulent.
Fake certificates?
Better. It's not really even a certificate because something that doesn't exist. Because I feel uncomfortable to even call it, to attach certificate to it. He brought us something that is fake. Yes. So, you know, we have all schooled in the various universities. The Bar Council members, the members of the commission that was in charge of receiving the files, they all have. So there was like, for example, there was a case where a candidate brought the certificate, the alleged certificate. And at the reception, they drew my attention to the fact that, no, we don't have any reason to question this, but looking at it, the way it is presented is not like the other ones. It's not like the other ones. Fortunately, some of us had the numbers of the dean of the faculty. That was Boya. We wrote to the dean informally, could you help us find out the authenticity of this? He wrote back, that matricule, the matricule that is given is the matricule issued by this institution. From our records, the owner of this matricule abandoned or stopped studies in second year. The name that you have given corresponding to this matricule is unknown to the records of this institution. So somebody who knows either a friend or whatsoever, or knows somebody who had abandoned studies in the second year, takes the person's matricule and sits on his computer and fabricates a degree or an attestation of success and brings it to us. Those are the things that we saw. And I seized this opportunity to see, because a lot of people are like, oh no, like in 2024, why did you allow some of the candidates write with the professional degree and all of that? Just like in other public exams in Cameroon, the verification of certificates is not before you write. It is actually within the period when you are already in the institution. That's why at the level of ENAM, some people go in, but they end up not graduating. So with the police, with the gendarmes, so with the bar. Those that wrote in 2022, the process of the verification of their certificates, it's ongoing. So the fact that some might have written or escaped the vigilance of the commission does not generate any acquired rights. It doesn't. What we rejected was what the glossary view of it could establish. But a profound verification will be done in due course. You will not expect the Cameroon Bar to actually genuinely verify certificates of 5,300 candidates within 2 weeks or so. Or you not expect us to write to the various universities within 2 weeks and have the reply. So we do what we can do at this preliminary stage. Those that would succeed in the exams, we will now get their files and do a proper investigation.
What does that speak of the credibility of lawyers, or even because this is not only with the Cameroon Bar entrance examination, like you mentioned earlier, there are people who are writing other entrance examinations to other higher institutions of learning like ENAM, ENS, and all the rest with fake documents.
Correct.
What does this speak? People coming to be lawyers with fake documents. Definitely, they're going to be fake lawyers.
It's not different when you have people who want to be medical doctors come in with fake documents. Of course, we have a lot of fake of them. They are fakes in everything. We have fake politicians, fake everything. There are lots of them. It's not only in the legal field. We have fake drivers. People who fake, they learn they're driving at the washing point. I don't know how they get driving license if at all they have. So there's a lot of fake.
Somebody said Cameroon is a nation of fake.
I won't want to say, I won't want to generalize it, but I can say true, there's a lot of fake, but it won't go to actually describe the country as a nation of fake. No matter how much the index of the fakeness is, I won't attribute it to that. There are individuals like you and I who are doing it. You will be amazed with the kind of things that we saw during the period either of the exams and when we're receiving the documents. And for your information, there is a whole class. There's a whole class that the general paper that they wrote, the main jury, the jury has cancelled the results.
What happened?
Actually, the invigilator of that hall is actually behind bars. The invigilator got in, and each time that I or the team of supervisors got into that campus, he will alert the students or the candidates that the bâtonnier or the supervisors were coming. The candidates were looking from their books. Some were using their phones. And we are told that he even informed the candidates, anybody who wants to consult the internet. And that's what happened in that. So there was actually examination malpractice in that. The persons who did it and the persons who saw it or did not denounce it, they are all part of the commission of the offense, though in different levels. You have the actors, you have accomplices. You can't, because the driving force for anybody who wants to be a lawyer is the fact that you have a yearn, you have an inborn desire to denounce injustice. I remember during, I think on the seat at the multipurpose sport complex, when I was talking about the problems that we encountered and all of that, the candidates that we rejected their files because their certificates were professional certificates, 2 of them took me to court. 2 of them took the bar to court. And I told them, for all purposes and intent, I dove my heart to them. I respect them. The fact that they are just candidates and they had the courage to take me to court is because they have a conviction. They believe that what the bar did was not correct. It is their inherent right. So anybody who wants to be a lawyer should first of all see injustice or any form of illegality as anathema. So those who saw it and said, okay, no, I'm writing, I'm not participating, I'm not going to use the telephone, without denouncing, you are equally. And that is when the jury had analyzed this, the jury said this is part of what is killing this country. The fact that you see your neighbor actually perpetrating some assault on the wife, on the children, or he is actually fabricating fake drugs, or he is into the sales of some contraband or doing something wrong, because it doesn't affect you, you stay quiet, you don't denounce. And that is why there's...
You're an accomplice.
You're an accomplice. You're an accomplice. And it is generally said that a country goes bad, not because of the strength of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good people. So those who stayed quiet actually gave them the courage to move ahead. So the jury decided that everybody in that hall, I think, but for the one candidate who had the courage to go and denounce it, the rest, that paper was cancelled.
And what happens to the candidates? They're probably going to fail.
They deserve it.
What was the problem with professional certificates?
The issue with professional certificates is that the law talks of a degree in law. It's better put in French, licence en droit. And when you talk about a degree in law, it's a classic. It's a standard degree. It's academic degree. It's not a professional degree. The way the professional, as I said earlier, the professional degrees came after the head of state called on the professionalization of education. And now the Minister of Higher Education, by an arrêté, created this domain of professional degrees. And that arrêté, I think it's February 2nd, I think 2020 something. Precise, there are three domains. There are three domains. There are three disciplines where the professional degree was created. And Article arrêté of that order says that other disciplines can be created. Law has never been one. There's never been a ministerial order creating it. And many people feel like the Cameroon Bar sat and decided to reject. We don't have the capacity. We don't have what it takes. If we suspect that a degree is not compliant, we don't write to the Minister of Higher Education. What we did was, when we discovered it, and let me just deviate and explain to you the genesis of this issue. Some people complained that last 2024 they wrote with a professional degree and it passed. And in all honesty, intellectually, if I were the one receiving the documents, all of those candidates would have passed. Because to me, the professional degree is okay, personally. Because in our Anglo-Saxon training, in our subsystem of education, these shortcuts of CAPA, BTS, and all of that, we don't know. I grew up knowing there is a O-level, A-level degree. The HND is something that is just coming in new. So there are so many subsets of degrees in the Francophone subsystem, which I don't have a mastery. So that may be what explains the passage in 2022. In 2026, it is not the commission that was in charge of receiving documents that discovered. No. They were candidates themselves who came to the commission. They came to the head of the commission, Barrister Musa Ganava, and told him that we have seen some two candidates. If they have a degree, the degree must be fake. That it is not up to 2 years that they had the BTS or whatsoever. That is when Barrister Musa identified those candidates and called them. And he discovered that the duration within which they had the professional degree was not 3 years. I wasn't around. They rejected some of them simpliciter. When my attention was drawn to it, I told them, no, we cannot reject. We don't have the authority to reject any degree because we don't have what it takes to judge the validity of a degree. So I said, let them collect the degrees on reserve. All of those degrees were collected and kept aside. We made a communique, we published that anybody who has the academic degree, and there were some who had the 2 degrees, they came with the academic degrees and substituted. I seized now the Minister of State, Minister of Justice, and presented the situation. He now called on the Minister of Higher Education, who sent, I think it's Inspector General. He came and we had a meeting. He explained to us, and he's the one who told us that degree, the professional degree, cannot be used for the exams, for the bar exams, that it is not the same as the academic degree. There were lots of polemics that were given, in terms of content and all of this, if they look at the transcript, they relevate the note and all of this. It is not our job to go get into relevates. That is the duty of the academia. And when they gave us the directives, that is what we followed. So the decision was not the bar. It was not the Cameroon Bar that took upon itself to reject degrees. We saw that something was wrong.
Degrees.
Yes, we saw that something was wrong. And we seized the competent authorities to give us orientation. And what we applied was that orientation. So those that succeeded with it in 2024, they're talking of acquired right. Once there is, I don't want to say it was not a fraudulent case. Within the course of their training, once we identify that your degree is irregular, I don't want to say it's fake. It is not a fake degree. It's not illegal. It is legal, but it is not the requisite.
It does not meet the requirements.
Yes, it doesn't meet the requirement
of the law.
If we discover that you have a professional degree, we would inform you that your degree is not conformant. You should regularize. That is the standard. That if the acquired rights they have is that they have acquired the status of a people advocate. We are not taking that status from them. But we will only tell them to regularize by providing the proper qualification.
So they have to go back to school and get an academic degree?
Let us get there and we see. I just want to believe that they have, but if they don't, I'm afraid they will have to.
The Ministry of Higher Education definitely has to put things right here, because it will be very disturbing for somebody to spend time and go to school and obtain a professional degree and then he cannot use it.
No, you can't say that he cannot use
particularly in that area of entrance into the bar or becoming a lawyer and so on, because he can use it for other things.
Yes, and that's what the degree is meant for. I cannot now decide to say I want to do medicine with my degree in law. And the medical school says, no, that is not the conformant degree. And I now say, no, the Minister of Higher Education has to be held responsible because I can't study and have a degree and I cannot use it. The professional degree has its own domain. It is actually meant for a particular sector. And that is why I kept saying it is pursuant to the call of the head of state in his end of year speech that they should professionalize training, because our educational system is public service oriented. It's public service. That was actually the intent of the speech of the head of state. It was not by naming a degree professional that the holder of that degree becomes a professional. You don't render education professional, or you don't professionalize education by calling the certificate that the holder has a professional degree and you think that you are professionalized it. No. And that is why if you look at that order from the Minister of Higher Education, he specified the domains where that is done. The school fee there is about 750,000. And you ask yourself, the law faculty has existed time immemorial. The fees is 50,000 in every state university. If the same faculty decides to create another department or another unit and say what they have from there is professional degree, by every definition, there is something different in it. There is something different. I see there are some university authorities that came out with some communique saying that the professional degree is the same thing like the academic degree and all of that. Good and fine. I don't want to get into some tussling with the university authorities. If they think it is the same, let them withdraw those ones and give us the academic degree that we want. Who am I? I don't have a problem with that. But so long as it is labeled professional degree, we are not going to take it. And the labeling, Mr. Babla, the content of some of those degrees is appalling. There's a whole cacophony in that sector. Because there are some that are 2 years, there are some that is 1 year, there are some that are done with the back, with the A-levels, there are some that are done with the BTS. So it's just churned. It's just churned inside out.
All right, Barrister, tell us about the administrative orders with the requirement of the sponsorship letter and all of that, which is also making a lot of noise with regards to the 2026 Cameroon Bar entrance examination.
It has always been. In 2024, it was. The point is that this seems to perhaps be one of the first time where the entrance exams has been launched within this proximity. The law provides that a lawyer who has been 5 years post-call can sign sponsorship, can undertake to sponsor 3 candidates. The letter of sponsorship is not a procedural symbolic requirement. It is an engagement that a lawyer of that standing takes with the bar, that should this candidate succeed in the exams, I undertake to train this candidate. And the law says you have 3. So it so happened that there are some candidates who went to some principals who were not up to date with their bar dues. And, with the multitude, since they just launched the exams, there are some candidates who already had either 2, some already had 3. If you had 3 already in your law office, there was no way you could sign anymore, except with a special waiver from the bar president, which waiver is predicated more on your installation. Because when you apply that, you have what it takes. If you are about 4 lawyers in the same office, more than 5 or 10 years post-call, and you have the logistic to train, I authorize it. Just the same, like when the commission that went down to visit the installation of chambers, there are some that recommended that although the law provides that this person can train 3, his office, the setting and the installation of his office does not permit him to train more than 1. In that case, we don't authorize him to train even more than that 1. Because the essence there is to ensure that the innocent third party who are the candidates do not find themselves stranded. They must have a good environment to be trained. Actually, the bar law talks of decent. That is the word the law talks about. It talks of a decent installation. So it must be of a certain standard. So that is what we were ensuring that we have. Of course, it is not new to you, Babila. You are the ones who say it on your media. Quite often, qu'il y a des avocats avec leur cabinet dans leur mallette. That are lawyers who have their offices in their suitcases. So those are the kind of things that we want to check against. And because of that, the number of lawyers who were qualified to issue the letters of sponsorship were limited, vis-a-vis the very huge number of candidates who wanted to sit the exams.
Right. Let's talk about the grading.
Correct.
About the grading, each paper was graded on 20.
Correct.
And the candidate needed to score at least 10 over 20.
Yes, the general paper is coefficient 3 and the legal paper coefficient 4.
Right. And
yes, the average is 10. So you must score 10 and above.
Right. And successful candidates needed to have a combined score of at least 12 over 20 across
Correct.
all the subjects.
Correct.
Now,
not in all the subjects.
Okay.
That is written and orals.
And oral.
Yes.
All right. So, earlier you talked about the case of exam malpractices. Apart from that hall where that paper, a particular paper was cancelled, apart from that, were there other reported cases of malpractice?
Yes, I will not say, I don't want to really curb it to call it malpractice in the same magnitude with the others, but there were some examination irregularities. There were some candidates, their files were brought to us. Just from the rough paper section, you will see that it is some other person who has written, and the main script is written by some other person.
2 different handwritings.
Correct. You had cases where you had some, because on the table where each candidate wrote, you had the candidate's number pasted on it. We had a situation where that number was found inside the candidate's answer sheet. The jury had to deliberate to decide, what do we do? Is this a signal to the marker? And we've had quite some. There were cases where a candidate, where he was supposed to write the exams, pupillage entrance exam, he wrote but his name. He wrote but his name. That is a disclosure. So even after the sheets were coded, you could identify the person. So those are all, there were so many of them. There were so many of them. There was a case where a candidate started writing, I think made some errors, called for a second writing sheet they brought. But at the time that the candidate was when she finished and she had to
hand
in the sheet, she instead handed in the rough paper, the one that she didn't intend to, where there was almost nothing. And she left and was going home. In the taxi, that's when she discovered. She rushed back. So the jury was convened. The jury examined at what time. First, we called the secretariat to sort out the paper that she submitted, the one she handed in. Does it contain only the rough work? Does it actually show that she didn't actually write? Are both handwritings the same? Could it be that this is something that was written at home or written out of the examination hall? The time within which she came back, all of those things were considered, and the jury in each case would deliberate and take a decision. There are some the jury would say, okay, no, this one reduce this number of marks. This one the jury would say cancel, all of those things.
When is the final list of successive candidates or successful candidates expected?
The marking is still ongoing. We'll certainly have to suspend at some point because we have the Muslim feast that is coming up sometime next week. Some people are going on holidays. So I think once we are done with the marking, they'll suspend. They'll do the marking. The jury will decide. That I can't really speak for the jury. I am the president of the jury, but I can't speak for the jury.
It can take how long for the successful candidates to know their status and then
prepare for the orals?
Prepare for the orals and then the next.
I would not really say, because it's a decision that is the jury that takes. It's a decision based on the program of the secretariat, the jury, the members of the jury, the main jury. They sit together, they say, okay, this is it. This is the moment when we can all be here. But the important thing is that we don't interject a particular process. We cannot interject the marking. We must go to the logical end of the marking so that it is safeguarded. If they have started recording the marks, they go to the logical end so that there is a proper custody of them. So it depends on what they will take.
All right. Before you tell us what happens after the final list is published, let's take some interviews now. We'll be right back in a moment. Is there national unity in Cameroon?
Oh yes, you can. From all indications, from empirical facts, from lived experiences, there is national unity in Cameroon, and there has been since even before the referendum of 1972, which is 54 years ago. Cameroon has always been a nation and was a nation before 20th May 1972. Don't forget that from 1884 to 1916, there was the Cameroon with a K. And nobody ever saw in history where they were quarreling amongst each other. They were united in order to send away the Germans so that they can be themselves, called Cameroon. And as you know, after the Second World War, Cameroonian students in Nigeria, in London, in Paris, in France, they were already making efforts to bring themselves together into a union movement. So the sense of union or unity has always been there. Besides, I've always said to people, and how can anyone, and of course everyone is free to have their belief, it is empirically, scientifically, intellectually wrong for anyone to say that there is no national unity or there has been no national unity. Because see, what is national unity, first of all?
That's another question.
That's
many seem to see it as a slogan.
No, it's not. National unity is not a decree. Exactly. National unity is not a decree. National unity is not a slogan. National unity is not a convenience. National unity is not propaganda. National unity begins with the conscience. National unity begins with the mind. National unity begins with, it's a spirit. And that conscience, that mind, that spirit has been in Cameroonians, no matter whether they are from the north, the south, the east, or the west, long time ago. Even before we were divided by the accident of colonial history, as you know, from 1916 to 1961.
In practice, Prof,
yeah.
Do we really have national unity when we have some Cameroonians who are chased away from some parts, and even in terms of what is known as the sharing of the national cake?
Yes, that is, you see, national unity, there is no national unity experience, or national unity does not mean uniformity. National unity does not mean that people think all alike or think the same way. That is why, in spite of our problems in the last, let's say, 10 years, let's say, as you've got in the north and the southwest, does that mean that where there are such problems, there is no national unity? No. The best way for people to be in security is for them to unite. And so there is no doubt that that consciousness has been in Cameroonians even way before 54 years ago. It is just that 54 years is important. We are measuring it because something happened 54 years ago, and I'm sure you want to know about that.
So the transformation from the federal to the
United Republic, yes,
which took place on May 20, 1972, is that date the right date to be celebrated as National Unity Day?
Yes, it is. It is, as you know, in every country in the world, it is the state, the power of the state, the authorities of the state, under the Constitution and the laws, that determine and that define the date based on their understanding of the history, the politics, and based on what the laws permit. If you look at our history, there are many dates you can choose, and we have only 365 days in a year. So the powers that be, the state of Cameroon, under the Constitution, determine that of all the dates, which are all important, the most pertinent and the most important that looks to our national union, our national unity, is 20th May. Why? It is logical, it is politically correct, it is historical, because that is the day in which all Cameroonians, all Cameroonians got involved in a referendum, a national referendum, which was peaceful, which was democratic, and which was free, whereby 99% of the Cameroonians from all the four corners voted to abandon the federal system and to begin unity on the basis of a unitary system.
So what do you tell those who think that May 20, 1972 should not be a day of celebration, but rather a day of mourning? A day on which former Southern Cameroons lost its identity, a day on which the Federal Constitution of 1961, Article 47, Paragraph 1, which prohibited any constitutional modification that will affect or change the form of the state, was violated.
No, people misread and people misinterpret Article 47 of the Federal Constitution. Article 47, this has been discussed for many, many years. Those lawyers or those activists who make the claim that Article 47 was violated, I think they are wrong in their own interpretation, because no matter how much you look at it, no matter what way you look at it, if you really, a matter of good faith, our forefathers and the political actors and the people of Cameroon that voted couldn't have voted against. They voted in all sovereignty. Sovereignty belongs to the people. I think is Article 2 of our Constitution.
But you know, Prof, that what happened on May 20, 1972 is the root cause of the conflict in the Northwest and Southwest today, which is a major threat to national unity, the change of the form of the state from a federal to a unitary.
No, those who based the conflict in the Northern and Southwest on 1972, I mean, they are wrong, because 1972 was, don't forget, a federation. 1972 was a referendum. A referendum is the highest expression, the highest form of the expression of sovereignty of a people. So, if anyone is against the referendum of 1972, that person is against the sovereignty of the people.
So after the finalists, what happens next? Those who are declared successful or to have passed the exams, what's the next thing?
Those who shall be declared successful definitely will take oath. Definitely they will take oath. But one thing is clear, and that's one thing that many people are like, you have the other ones who are going through the training, and these other ones, are they going to be over sliding, or what are we going to do? So I said, no. What will be done is, by the time they declare the final results here, we'll have some time to actually do some verifications, preliminary verifications of certificates, because of the hurdles that we had last time. We've learned from there. We'll do all of that. About the time when the orders are going out, because the orders are normally supposed to go out by the end of this year. So we're talking about 7 months thereabout. So within the time for us to do all this verification, do the preparation for them to acquire their robes, do everything, we will almost be getting to when the rest are going out and they'll take their oath.
They'll take oath and then they'll go to the chambers and begin their training.
Correct.
The training will last?
2 years.
It lasts for 2 years.
2 years.
After that, they're lawyers.
No.
Is that?
After that, they sit the end of training exams. If they are successful in the exams, they take the oath, then they become lawyers.
They become lawyers.
Yes.
All right.
If they don't, they have another chance to write, then they have a second chance to write. If they don't pass after the second chance, they bid farewell to the profession.
That's quite strict.
You may look at it that is strict, but we think that it's quite loose. Because everybody, Tom, Dick, or Harry, walks in and wants to be a lawyer. They are actually working on better mechanisms. If you get to Nigeria, next door Nigeria, it is not every university. It is not every university that you graduate from that you have access to the law school. Don't. You must come from a university where the law school has validated its curriculum. We are getting to that. I had written to the Minister of Higher Education, we need to get to that level.
To have a law school. Because
to have a law school, yes. And that to have a law school, and that the bar should be able to have a say in the curriculum that is taught in the law faculties in the university. Because quite often you see students graduate, they write the bar exams, those that are successful. Before long, today they are attending this seminar on WADA, they're attending this seminar on this, they're attending this seminar. Most of those seminars, you go there, the guest speakers are still the same university lecturers. But when you look at the curriculum in the university, it doesn't reflect the demands of the legal market today. So we must be able to step up. The bar should be able to have a say on what is taught in the law faculty. We are a major consumer of those products. There's no society where the consumer or the producer of products does not take into consideration the appetite or the desires of the consumer. The bar is one of the major consumer of the products of the law faculties. So we should have a say of what they should be producing.
Thank you very much, Barrister. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the insights you've shared with us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babula. It's always an honor for us being your guest. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today's edition of The Insight. Goodbye.